All right, so chapter 5 of the Foundations of Data Viz book has this directory of visualizations, which I hope will be helpful for you as a tool of figuring out what type of visualization is appropriate for your data. Sometimes you can do visualizations that aren't actually the right type in the first place. So go over this really quick because we'll be getting more into these as we're going through the actual visualizations. So amounts we are going to go through today, and that's anything that is where you're doing actual like numeric counts, whether that's money or gadgets or whatever. They could be the bar or column. These dots are a little weird. That's not a normal one. I wouldn't actually recommend that. I don't think Tableau actually does those. Pretty much anything you have, like Excel or whatever, does those, and the grouped and stacked. I do see stacked bars misused, so we'll talk a little bit about that to make sure that we're using those correctly. Heat maps is one of those super cool things that Tableau can do that stuff like Excel isn't going to do in the same way. Heat maps in Excel usually refer to basically a lot of conditional formatting. And so we'll talk about the differences between those. And execs love all of them anyways. Yeah, so these are basically, you have categories and numbers, and that's it. So you notice how these all have like one axis. That's the indication that amount is probably your thing. Distributions and densities. A lot of times these are more of stuff you'll see in technical writing and data, and less so in the more commonly seen data, but we'll go through most of those, not things like that because it's too technical. You're not going to use those unless you're doing actual statistics. Those of you who are doing actual statistics and need to see QQ plots, you can read on that on your own later. Yeah, proportions we were going to do next week. So that's when we're using our bars for percentages instead of counts. Things like pie charts, stack bars. So that's all when we're looking at percentages instead of actual numbers. There's some cool ways that we can handle those, and we get into these more modern things like the tree maps, mosaic plots, and the parallel sets. So all those are like newer and trendy. Not everyone knows how to read them that well. But they can be very, very cool for dealing with a lot of data, a lot better than things like pie charts can. XI relationships are our scatter plots and things that are spurred off of those. So that is when you have two different number sets. So when we were talking about the issue with having a dual axis, usually that's because you have two different numbers going on, two different types of numbers. This is probably what you were actually supposed to be doing instead of that. As it says here, if you have 3 variables, you can make a bubble chart. Again, this is getting more into more complex stuff that Tableau can do, that things like Excel and G Sheets and stuff, it's getting beyond the capabilities. So we get into some of these cooler things over here. Parallelograms are a really cool way that integrates some numbers sometimes. We are going to get into geospatial data, aka maps, later on in the quarter, which Tableau does pretty well, so that'll be fun. Uncertainty, again, this is stuff that a lot of times the folks in this class probably aren't going to run into as much because error bars tend to be associated more with stats and stuff, and I'm not going to assume that you have that under your belt at this time. Usually you only see those in technical writing anyways, with exception of things like just adding error bars to bar charts and stuff. So again, so this is just to give you some vocabulary to group these in your mind in segments and how we're going to cover these throughout this quarter. Okay, so our first thing we're going to do is go into the amounts, and then we're going to do distributions, and that will be it for today.